Hey everybody, KC here. So yesterday in FaceTime, I talked a little bit about how I was surprised when the New York Times announced they would be no longer carrying TV listings, saying it really didn't make sense anymore. I was mostly surprised because I had no idea they even had TV listings. I can't even remember the last time I checked the newspaper to see what was on television. That seems like such a 20th century thing to do. I've had some conversations with some people since that ran, and I want to stretch the metaphor just a little bit more. One of the things I noticed in looking at the A section of the Sunday New York Times is that of the 30 pages of the A section, there were only 2 full-page ads. And those are the things that used to make the New York Times a lot of money, right? You put a full-page ad on a Sunday, they charged you a lot of money for that. And now, not so much. A friend of mine who's in advertising says, listen, he doesn't even buy print advertising anymore. He buys digital and they throw the print in for nothing. I'm not sure that's what they do at the New York Times. And listen, let's be clear, the New York Times is still a fabulously successful newspaper, and but they now make more money on their digital edition than they make on their print edition, their Dead Tree edition. One of the things that I also noticed in looking at the Times, and this really surprised me, was they still devote an entire page to the weather report. Really? When was the last time you checked the newspaper to find out what the weather was going to be? Again, it was probably longer than since I've checked the paper for the weather than since I checked for TV listings. And the amazing thing is, they do it for the New York metropolitan area, which you would expect in New York cities and international cities, but the print is so small. Who can read it? It just doesn't make any sense. I got to believe at some point the New York Times is going to say, we're not going to carry the weather either. Again, it doesn't make sense to be selling stuff that people don't necessarily need, or they can get another way in a much easier way. The converse of that is that it's interesting that this is not necessarily applying to the New York Times, but a lot of newspapers don't even run obituaries anymore. If you want to have your obituary in the paper, you actually have to pay for it. And listen, when I started out in the newspaper business, I was writing obituaries. And the thing about obits is it's the one thing people will actually open the newspaper to read. They don't necessarily want to go on legacy.com. They want to pick up the paper and see who in their local market, local area has passed away. They want to read something about them that is kind of interesting. It tells them something about their community. And it's interesting to me that a lot of newspapers are now no longer carrying or will only charge to run the one thing that people might actually want to read the newspaper for. Again, this is a great lesson for retail, right? It doesn't make sense to have products and services that people don't necessarily need or can get another way. But if you can provide something that connects to your community, boy, that you want to do, and you want to do it as much as possible. Again, I may be stretching the metaphor a little thin here, but I think it absolutely works. Anyway, that's what's on my mind this morning. And as always, I want to hear what's on your mind.